Welcome to the Home Means podcast, where the heart of Nevada comes alive. I'm your host, Heather Brown, and this is a place where we uncover the real stories behind the people who make our state extraordinary. From unforgettable adventures to everyday moments that shape us, this podcast is all about the voices, the faces, and the experiences that make Nevada truly unique. Let's dive in and let's get to the heart of what home means. On today's episode of Home Means, we have Lori Nelson-Kraft, Senior Vice President of Corporate Affairs of F1 Las Vegas. Thank you so much for being here with me today.
Thanks for the invitation. I love the name of your podcast.
Thank you so much. I grew up here and grew up, learning the song, and I've just felt this very deep connection to Nevada, no matter where I lived in the world. So it's fun to be able to tell our story now.
Yeah. No, when I heard it, I was like, you nailed it.
Amazing. So you've called Southern Nevada home for nearly 3 decades. You grew up in Detroit, Michigan.
Mm-hmm.
Is that correct? What was it about Las Vegas that drew you in, and what makes it feel like home today?
So when I turned 25 in Detroit, I had been a couple years into my career, and my college friends all had dispersed around the country, and I was visiting with them. And in my heart of hearts, I was like, I haven't explored anything outside of Michigan. And it hit me after college that I hated the winters. And I didn't know I hated them because you just deal with them when you have them. And so there was this fire burning inside of me of this is the time in my life to explore and try somewhere new. Mm-hmm. And it definitely needs to be warm. And my parents had always talked about retiring out to Las Vegas because my dad's sister and her family had been here since the late 70s. So this was their one big trip. So back in the fall of 95, I booked a ticket. I cold called some people in the communications industry just to get a feel for what is the industry like. I was super young, and I just really fell in love with the entrepreneurial spirit that was Southern Nevada back in the mid-90s. It was growing so fast. All these big projects were happening. There was this renaissance, and I could just feel it. And Detroit felt like we were always celebrating the past and tearing it down, and it hadn't gone through its downtown resurgence. And so it really was appealing to me, and knowing that my parents were eventually going to be here, which was 5 years later, was added bonus of I don't have a connection in the world. I haven't established my career, but I have some existing family out here. My parents will be here eventually. My sister ended up out here by fluke as well when she went to UNR for her master's work. And there was just something that drew me to the city. And so without a job, I packed up, shipped my car, had $8,000 in my life savings that I brought here. And I packed up my Moxie and said, I'm going to give it a shot. And I fell in love with it.
I love that you understood the renaissance that was happening in Las Vegas in the 90s. Right, you have the Mirage coming in. You all of a sudden now it's not just gaming, it's resort gaming, and you have all these new family-focused entertainment plazas, and they're really trying to bring in this family forward. And it was a change from how Las Vegas had been before. So I think it's wonderful that you got to experience that.
Well, and another quick funny story about that, I was cleaning out my spare closet a couple months ago, and I found an old box from college, and I was on the university's forensics competitive speaking team, and my informational speech that ended up getting a first place was about Las Vegas and Southern Nevada and how all the different faces of it, from when gambling was not approved, and it was about the mafia, and then it talked about the residential and economic growth, and then the future and all that. And I read it, and who would have thought, as I was in my senior year of college, that the place that I highlighted in a 10-minute informational competitive speech would be the place I call home.
You were foreshadowing your future trajectory.
It actually, and the other funny thing is I quoted UNLV and some of its studies it had produced on the economic development out here. And so I was like, I knew nothing, and yet I'm looking at my sources, and they're all things that I rely on today as the source of go-to information.
That's so amazing that you actually wrote a paper. I wonder if that was always in the back of your mind. It's what you learned
Well,
about it.
Vegas, I grew up with Vegas and Detroit because, again, my dad's side of the family was out here. So it was always the
Oh
big
yeah.
trip. And I got to come out here as a kid, which was, you get to go to Circus and play
Oh
in there.
yes.
That was like, oh, great.
Let's talk a little bit about your background in Detroit, and I think that gave you a very unique perspective on community engagement. And I'm curious how those roots influence the way you're shaping communication and engagement today.
Truth be told, I don't think Detroit is where my community roots are. If you think about it, I have now spent more of my life out here and pretty much my whole adult life. There was the Midwest is really a sense of community. Like we knew all of our neighbors, all the kids played out in the street together. We all grew up together. But I'd say my connection to the community, my love for it, and me having deep experience and roots in it is because I genuinely fell in love with the state.
I totally feel that because I do feel like we have this immense community pride. And if you're somebody who wants to do good in this community and you're willing to put boots on the ground, I think we embrace you.
100%. And it goes back to you have to put yourself out there. You can't just wait for someone to invite you to do something. Like you got to have skin in the game and genuinely kind of explore that.
If you care about this community and then you actually invest in it, you don't want to just go to the events and take your picture at things. This community will 100% embrace you.
It doesn't matter if you are at the 5-year mark, 10-year mark, you are a native. This place is very warm and welcoming.
And also, I like that from all walks of life because we have somebody from every demographic, every age, gender, socioeconomic, they all come here. And I think the global audience is also something that we have to celebrate because we've got
Absolutely.
56 million people that come through Harry Reid International every year.
And you, even if you're not in the number one industry being hospitality, and for many years I really wasn't on the tourism side or the gaming side, but you're still so connected to it indirectly, directly, and it is a force to be reckoned with. It is, I know everyone screams, diversify the economy, and certainly, we have a ways to go, but the pride of where we live being the number one most desired destination in the world. I mean, it's not just like we're down on a list. This place is special and you can't replicate it anywhere, and you can take pieces of it and try to have those experiences. But at the end of the day, when you've watched all the changes and evolution of every time, everyone kind of, wants to try to take a piece of what makes us special. It's just right here.
Yeah, and I love being able to go anywhere in the world. Where are you from? Las Vegas.
And there's a story that their face lights up. I mean, how many plane rides have you been on that, you make the choice of if you're going to tell people that you're from here or not, because it totally changes how your time is spent on the plane?
That's 100% correct. But it's nice that this city, having that global brand, was able to welcome another global brand to be so embedded in it. And I actually really want to talk about how F1 was able to come into a city like Las Vegas, and which is obviously a massive undertaking in and of itself. But what do you think makes this a natural fit for it to be here in Las Vegas?
So I ended up being on the tourism side of the initial conversation during my days at LVCVA when Formula One Las Vegas Grand Prix and Liberty Media wanted to come in to have the conversation. It was during the pandemic. You could fly, but everyone was wearing masks in the meeting. And the appeal to the tourism, to tell the tourism side why it mattered to them, is F1 being a global brand and having its roots throughout the world had really started to put a focus on the United States, and they wanted to grow that footprint. And there was no better place in their minds than the place that attracts over 40 million people around the world annually. And it wasn't just a race on a track. They had a vision that, imagine the number one world's motorsport coming together with the top tourism brand and experience, and the force of those two coming together and having cars travel around over 200 miles an hour around the iconic Las Vegas Strip as the visual. And it's so interesting because being there the inaugural year on the LVCVA side and then having transitioned to the operations side, being at the event in person was a spectacle, and like the little hairs on my arm went up because there was so much going on. But even better was when I watched the broadcast later on and you saw these gorgeous aerial shots of our city shining so bright and spectacular on this global stage. And that to me was an even bigger impact. And so then you see why Formula One had that vision. And they really did. I mean, Las Vegas, they're trying with intent to make the Monaco of North America. And that's why, in addition, for the first time ever, that Formula One and Liberty Media own the racing rights here. Throughout the world, those racing rights, it's a privilege that other towns pay for to have. But here, the owners of Formula One, they have the racing rights. They invested $600 million in permanent infrastructure, and they don't do that anywhere else because they were bullish on Las Vegas. They were bullish on the two experiences coming together and making it even more magical.
I remember the inaugural race, and I was lucky enough to attend myself, and it was special because you see it, you hear about it, there's a Netflix series, but something about I was over at the T-Mobile, so I got to see the Sphere, and there was just something like the Sphere was still new, and so I was still getting used to that, but then it was showing a car doing like a 360 on it, and the cars are going here, and it just felt like my hometown had embraced yet another cool thing. And I know it had been here once in the 80s, I think, maybe
it
twice.
Had a hot minute
yeah.
for, where Caesars hosted it in their parking lot. But you're right, very, very different. And when you think about it, like, again, being on the tourism side, having been privileged to have sat in that initial meeting, tourism leaders, and as, those conversations happened with resort partners, it was also about how does tourism grow and get the right exposure, and the international market was an opportunity for Las Vegas. You're going after the convention business, you're going after leisure, you have a piece of international, but there was opportunity to grow there, and Formula One having that fan base that's worldwide was huge, so that if maybe you didn't come to the race from an international market, you watched it, the global eyes on Las Vegas, it was just 3 days of commercials for Las Vegas. And that has a ripple effect because you may not, those F1 fans may say, I'm going to continue to watch that race at home, but they are going to plan for a vacation somewhere down the road and choose Las Vegas because of everything in all the commercials for Vegas. We got this incredible platform.
No, and I appreciate that. Even if that wasn't the initial intent, positions like yours and F1 Las Vegas has really been intentional from an outsider looking in integrating the local community in what they do. They didn't just come here for a 3-day commercial and say you're welcome. It was for the 362 other days of the year, how do we actually engage with the local community so they know that it's super embedded. And to me, I think if a global brand comes with that kind of care, it is something that the community should embrace. And I've noticed it from an outsider looking in.
From day one, Liberty Media and Formula One said, we are not just here for race week. It's why the permanent purchase of 39 acres, building a 300,000 square foot facility that is open to the community and is now activating year round to invite people in. The intent was there to say we are invested in the long term. And I think people are still surprised when they learn that we have a full-time staff of 140 locals here that are working on marketing, purchasing, event operations, communications. Every aspect of the race is produced here by locals.
And we'll get into I want to talk about the paddock because I recently had an opportunity to visit, but I love that there are 140. That's That's just 140 jobs year round.
Year round.
Then all the extra people that come in for race week, like the economic impact has to be just exponential.
Yeah, so coming up the second year, Applied Analysis does our economic impact report. And in year one is an anomaly. It's like shiny new toy. It has some, impressive numbers that will normalize. And they sure did. But to the tune of that race week generated $934 million for our local economy. That is taking out everything that Formula One makes, and the teams make, and the sponsors make. That is staying here in our community of job creation, indirect, induced, direct. Even in that $934 million, $45 million of that taxes to the state, the county, local municipalities, $15 million just for our schools alone. That's real.
That's the type of investment into a community that literally changes and lets local industry and let businesses, but also schools, it lets them actually do what they're meant to do. Being a low tax state, it's hard to sometimes do that. So to be able to say 45 million is going directly into government and schools is a huge impact.
Yeah. Yeah, being a good steward in the community, and to your point, saying we're year round and to show up year round in meaningful and authentic ways is thankfully we have leadership that is exactly the mantra.
And it feels good when a brand of that size and magnitude even cares what the local community feels. Because very much, you and I both know from living here, you don't have to go down to Las Vegas Boulevard. Your life can be completely separated between the two. But that was not the only priority here. You have shared, and we're going to get into it, some of the things that you're doing day in and day out, and it's really special. I want to unpack that a little bit. But first I want to ask you, what are some of the most exciting opportunities for collaboration that you see coming to Las Vegas because of the F1 race, maybe both locally and globally?
Yeah. So, one, we're going to get a little bit of an extra spotlight this year because the F1 Academy will be our support race, and they are the female drivers. And that is newer to Formula One, and it's really exciting because as a female, I think the tremendous role modeling and opportunity we have to introduce young women in the community to all the careers in racing through a female lens is something I'm super excited about. But some of the other things, like I think people will be surprised the caliber of brands that are very family friendly and some of the best known are super excited about the Las Vegas platform. I mean, we're talking about the Legos of the world and so many other names I'm not able to say today, but they're coming specifically to engage and be part of this event and be part of our community. And I think that's going to be a really nice addition this year is, it's not just our global brand, it's all these other global brands that know the power of the Las Vegas brand, and they're bringing their energy here. And, it's going to be super exciting for locals and visitors.
And the fact that you can reach even further to other brands and that they know the F1 brand so well, they see what you do. And I actually believe that, and we obviously don't know, I don't know what companies you're talking about, but I don't think a lot of times companies around, global companies will look at Vegas and say, I could do business there, because they only see one side of Vegas. And I really believe that this race and 3 days of commercials that highlight the good things that are happening inside the community, but also just the city itself, it's allowing people to have a softer view of our city.
Yeah, good point.
And
really good point.
I think we saw that with the NFL too, because it's not just, and we love LVCVA and we love all the commercials that they do,
Absolutely.
But they spend millions of dollars pushing one narrative and everybody else pushes a different narrative because there is a deep community here.
Really well said, and especially in our race week programming is we have been gifted all this real estate to engage local groups to get to be part of the festivities and to be part of it. Like we get we get to have during the national anthem. We had First Nevada last year, the kids, and they were grid kids, and each of them were assigned to a different driver and got to spend a day with us. And they were on the grid with each driver, getting a memorable experience during the national anthem. CASA volunteers through the county, they got to be our flag holders. We got to host it a day exclusive to middle schoolers that are studying STEM in at CCSD and give them an unforgettable behind the scenes day at the pit building where they learned about all the different careers in racing. And when a school principal sends me a note the next day saying, "Thank you, now my kids can dream bigger," then I know we nailed it.
Oh, you just gave me goosebumps.
I have printed out that email and I have it at home. I mean,
yeah,
that's the stuff where you go, when you can use the power and influence of that brand and that event to do real things in the community and bring everyone in that way. That was, those are the cool things that go, that's why I'm sitting here.
And we know that people only dream as big as their scope of influence, right? If they don't see possibility, if they don't have access to things, this is why education is always important. This is why community programming is crucial, because this is helping uplift communities. So you put a little tear to my eyes, because like I love those kind of stories, because we live in such a special place. The fact that you're giving access to people is just so...
It's a gift. And I'm grateful that, I'm the vehicle, me and my team are the vehicle to get to deliver those things. But what a gift that we work for an organization that believes in that.
Well, I would love to, just hear more about some of these programs, because I know, we had talked about, I had recently went to the paddock and I got an opportunity to do the simulation. Let me tell you what, I got a little queasy. Like, there's some real G's in that.
It really is. It's the real thing, and it shakes, and you're going top speed, and I crash a lot. So
yeah.
I do way better with the go-karting that's going through those EV carts that are going through the team garages right now. I do much better.
Well, your life is at stake at that one. But no, I when I did the simulation, I was like, oh, it's just go-karting. It's just like a video game. Right. No.
Oh, no.
I legitimately got, like, I could feel it. Yes. And you're like, vroom, vroom. And then you're just, it's amazing.
Oh, I'm so glad.
And then being able to, I've driven down Las Vegas Boulevard plenty of time. Never at 200 miles an hour.
Right. And but you are on our course.
Being able to go on the actual course in a video game where I'm feeling the G's and you're going, and you're just like, it's such a special experience, because you could watch it on TV, but getting an opportunity.
Yeah.
And you shared with me that you were actually bringing in different groups to get to experience it themselves.
Right. So, in May, we debuted 3 different attractions inside what we call Grand Prix Plaza, which is known as the pit building, the paddock. It depends how you refer to it. But the idea was to introduce everyone to see, feel, touch, and experience the thrill of Formula One, even if you were casual, like I don't know much, but it walks you through. We have F1X in an interactive experience, and it's an exhibition that takes you room by room to not only see the history of Formula One, but you can do a pit stop challenge where you get to change the tire and time yourself, and you get to design your own car, and it is projection mapped. It's your own livery on that, and so and then the karting has been a lot of fun. We've had a lot of groups, and from kids to like adults, and they each walk away with the biggest smiles on their face. So having that, and then having private event space, we have gone out of our way to invite a lot of different business groups in, because it's important to welcome everyone into the home. That was a building up until this year in May that was really exclusive to the race. We had done some community events for the foster care community and some private events that we were able to do, but to open it up to everyone as approachable and available to them has really been a game changer. So we're thrilled we're able to do that. When we're going to be we shut it down for the race. So everything that you saw in there is going away so we can build out for the race infrastructure. And then at some point in January, everything's going to come back in and we're going to be able to host everyone. But it gives us a 9-month window of time to keep the doors open and available to the community.
I think the magnitude that goes into a race like this is important for people to know because there is so much thought behind it. You talked about the origins of this and how there was community at its focus, but the actual race itself, I mean, I was doing research and getting ready to talk to you. It is massive.
It is in many other cities throughout the world, the track is off and its own thing. So to be a road circuit is rare. And the 3.8 miles, the planning alone and the coordination with the stakeholder communication of constantly working with all the businesses in and around the circuit to plan for hosting the race and closing roads, which is difficult to do for 3 days. But Las Vegas has a can-do attitude. And from the county commissioners to the fire department to all the transportation partners like RTC and all the businesses in and around, they all have skin in the game, and we know it is a privilege to take over those streets, and it is a heavy lift to do that because there's multiple fan zones too. You were at the T-Mobile Sphere, which is its own spectacle and its own environment, and it had live concerts every night. Yes. And had a food and beverage scene and activations. And when you think about those 3.8 miles, there's multiple little fan zones going on, down to the Bellagio Fountain Club and their build out of that. From a guest experience, you could choose from dozens of different experiences, and you can do it from different price points. And we did a lot of general admission tickets this year. We've done a lot of single day tickets too, because we recognized that locals want to check it out, but they may not want to go all 3 days. Yeah. And so we tier ticket pricing to say, would you like to come out Thursday for practices? You want to come out Friday for qualifying, or Saturday the race? And so we've learned a lot too going into the third race, and we take all that feedback in. I mean, one of the other things too is we adjusted the start time of the race 2 hours earlier, and that's based on lessons learned and all that feedback from every stakeholder that we're in constant communication with. Of it will be more beneficial for us, it will be less complicated if we can get the East Coast eyeballs on it. Resort partners are saying, I can take care of our guests, and they have opportunities before the race and afterwards to do something at our property. So, we continue to be a work in progress. We want this to be good for everyone. And so those are some of the lessons we've learned over time that you'll see incorporated into year 3.
But it's also cool that a big global brand like that can pivot just year over year. But it tells me that the people they hired were the right people who could really understand not just the community impact, but like the political impact, all of that.
It's a lot. Yeah. It's, you're not just on private land. You have received permission and privilege to take over public right-of-ways. And with that comes an enormous responsibility to plan, to be responsible, to anticipate. How do you take care of those in your event footprint and make sure the town can function with the infrastructure of all the public safety and all the public agencies being able to do both things, and making sure you invest in the right things to allow us to be able to cohabitate at the same time to let the town run. You know what we had to be really thoughtful of is there's 150,000 hotel rooms throughout Southern Nevada, and not everyone who was coming to town was going to the race. So how do we let those visitors move around, and accounting for all the hospitality workers who need to get to their shifts, get in and out and get home in a timely way and not be stuck in a commute. And the vendors, and like even Clark County was very thoughtful in pushing back on us, saying, help the property so that they're planning with their vendors to get their goods and services in a timely way because they've got to feed everyone. And so, thanks to the LVCVA, they helped us last year stand up, and they'll do it again this year, an employee mobility program. It's a park and ride program for all those properties that will be in and around the circuit impacted, that we don't, we know how important it is for every hospitality worker to get there in a timely way to do their shift so they can take care of our guests, because we know what happens when our guests are taken care of. And so to take that guesswork out of, well, it took me an hour and a half to get into the parking garage. No, we're going to park you at the convention center. You're going to take the monorail over, or we're parking you, over at the Orleans, and you're going to get shuttled over to Fashion Show Mall, and you're going to get in a timely way.
Yeah. No, it's so smart to think about that too, because I know there were grumblings about it, but it's growing pains. And we've already talked about how pivot really quickly, understanding what needs to happen, and it just goes
and
back
commit to making it better.
Actually, let's talk a little bit about, like, if we're going to look ahead, and what legacy do you hope to kind of leave through your role within the F1 Las Vegas? How do you envision it kind of being a contribution to sustainability, civic pride? Yeah.
So the lasting legacy would be that it continues on annually and allows the two to stay together. And, we've received support from LVCVA and many of our resort partners to continue that, which is great. Sustainability and being sustainable matters to us. We work on and have sustainability programs in place to have a net zero impact to the Grand Prix Plaza portion. It's hard to take over all 3.8 miles and do that, but we've really increased our sustainability footprint and our commitment to that. But the lasting legacy is that this is successful so that everyone here throughout Nevada benefits from it being here.
No, and I love that at your core that is the mission, because that will make a difference. Hopefully we get you guys in perpetuity, and we can be having this conversation at year 25 and be excited about all of the community engagement and the stickiness that we'll feel. I'll still be going, so
25 years from now.
Yes.
I might need you to pick me up. I don't know if I'll be we'll have self-driving cars by then.
We'll take the shuttle in.
Yeah, we'll do the employee mobility program.
All right.
Agreed.
Well, I'm going to ask you a couple rapid fire questions.
All right. You told me it was coming.
Favorite local restaurant?
Omelet House, the OG one on Charleston. It's a little Sunday tradition.
I love that. Must visit spot for newcomers?
To this day, the Bellagio Dancing Fountains and Conservatory is like on every list. I was just texting with cousins of mine. Her husband turns 90 and they're planning their Vegas visit. And I was like, this, and this. But still to this day, anytime I'm on the Strip, we go through, and it never grows old.
I know. I do it too.
Yeah.
What is the best outdoor activity?
Oh, hiking. I am on the west side of town and Red Rock Canyon and all of them. I don't care if it's Valley of Fire or Mount Charleston or Lone Mountain. I mean, just beautiful. That view never grows old.
What is a hidden gem in Southern Nevada?
I'm gonna give props to Smith Center on that. It was the days, and I had such a wonderful opportunity to work with both mayors Goodman, but in the early days of this vision for downtown Las Vegas by the railroad tracks and what that vision was, I have always just been a live theater person, and seeing the Smith Center come to fruition and the public support behind it, I have been a Broadway series ticket holder since.
What is your go-to coffee shop?
So, truth be told, in the mornings, we walk our dogs to the new Starbucks right by us, and we actually have our morning buddies at 5 a.m. that we see and then we part ways. But so that just because it's our little morning shtick. But there is a place downtown called Dig It Coffee, and they hire people of all abilities. And it just, every time I'm in there, it just feels really good. And I like that being a meetup spot for little coffee meetings.
I love that. I'll have to check it out. What's your favorite place to unwind?
Home.
What's the best view in the city?
Oh, so again, I said West Side in Summerlin. Before you get, as you go up West Charleston, Red Rock Canyon's on the right, and before that, there is a trail called Gun Range Ridge, I believe it's called, because there's a gun range right over there. We found it, and if you take that trail up, it has sweeping views of the entire city, and then somebody had put in and staked in a couple flags, and there is always a VGK flag and usually like a US or a Nevada flag, but it's the most panoramic views of the entire city, and can't miss.
I'll have to check it out. What's your favorite thing to do on the weekends?
Okay, so my husband would say she likes to take a nap. I love to visit with my two nieces and nephew. That's always part of it. And then, I tend to be a routine person. And I'd say when we do our weekly shop at Costco, because it comes with the $1.50 hot dog and Diet Coke, which totally, I know, it has to be a Diet Coke. Sorry.
No. I love Costco. I love Costco. I love everything about Costco.
I get to do some really glamorous work things, but I nest at home, and those are the things that I enjoy the most.
Oh, I respect that. What is one must-have experience for visitors?
So this is wearing my old hat with Station Casinos, but I think visitors need to stay off the Strip or downtown, and that's my plug for Station Casinos, because every time I'd have friends visit, I think the Strip and downtown is great, but sometimes when you go off Strip, it's a totally different experience. And all my friends and family that I'd have stay at Red Rock or Green Valley Ranch, they're like, I get to see the community, I get to see all these other pieces, and I get all my favorite things about Las Vegas. Not that they didn't go see a show or grab dinner or do something else downtown, but I really think once you introduce that to people, they see a whole different side of Vegas and they appreciate it in a different way.
I totally agree. I've been inviting people to Durango as of late.
Yeah.
Because it's special.
It's special. Yeah.
What is the most underrated perk of living in Nevada?
So this perk when you go to other towns, and it is the 24/7 nature of the convenience of, because we are dealing with 3 different shifts of workers, everything's available to you. So it's that piece, and then because we are such a tourism hotbed, we get all the cool stuff as local. So we get the restaurants, the attractions, the live shows. You don't have to go anywhere. It all comes to you.
Yes, totally agree. And I tell people this all the time. I was like, I can do whatever I want any day, anytime. It just is available.
Right. You go somewhere else, you're like, I'm hungry. And they're like, there are no choices.
It is 9:01.
You're like, I'm ready to work out, my body clock. And it's like, that gym is closed. My dry cleaning. Sorry.
They roll the sidewalks up at night.
So I don't take that, I still find that to be a privilege that we have such flexibility.
Yeah, I 100% agree. Well, Lori, I have absolutely loved this conversation. And thank you so much for everything you guys are doing and taking some time to chat with us.
Thanks for the invitation, Heather.